Hey guys, welcome to otakusandgeeks.com reviews. Justin here, and today I'll be reviewing the film End of Watch, directed by David Ayer and also written by David Ayer. The film stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Michael Pena, and Anna Kendrick. Let's talk a little bit about the stories and the characters, but as usual, here's a brief synopsis of the film. Two young officers are marked for death after confiscating a small catch of money and firearms from the members of a notorious cartel during a routine traffic stop. Yes, that is the synopsis of the film, but what really drives the heart of this story, you guys, is the relationship between these two officers. This is the main core of the story, and it's a nice character study on the relationships of these guys. And when you're first introduced to these characters, they are very reckless, and they stay reckless throughout the whole course of the film, actually. These cops are those type of cops that want to... They're not out for glory. They're not out for, recognition. But they want to. They have such a passion for their job that sometimes they don't really think things through much. For example, this is not a spoiler. There is one scene where there's a fire. They're driving around doing their little patrol watch, and there's a fire. And instead of just waiting for the fire department, they decide, hey, we're cops. Let's go in there. We have to get there and do it before them just in case something happens, responsibility-wise. So they're very reckless, but what, like I said, drives the heart of the story is the relationship between these cops, Brian and Mike, which is played by Gyllenhaal and Pena. And the chemistry between these two actors was really good. Because without the chemistry of these two actors, the movie wouldn't have been as believable as it was, and you wouldn't be as emotionally invested as you would be when you're watching it. And emotionally invested is definitely what they were going for, because the chemistry makes you really hope for these guys. You really want them to achieve anything that they have their passion for. You really fall in love with these guys, and you're like, man, these guys are cool. For us guys watching the film, for the men watching the film, like, man, I would like to hang out with these guys. These guys are cool. And they show you the family, they show you the relationships of their girlfriends, their wives, and then it all comes together up to this build up for when they basically become marked for death after this routine traffic stop they do. They do a traffic stop, and then they find out that this guy has gold guns and gold everything. So they started to get a little ambitious, like, we're not detectives, but this is our case. We discovered this. I want to follow up and see who's behind it. So it leads them into a big over their shoulders, this is way over their head type of case, where it gets deeper and deeper. And I'm not going to spoil what happens to them or who's behind it. Let's just say that they get in a lot of trouble, and it gets really intense. And what makes this film even more intense is the way the film is shot. You're in the seat. You're seeing this literally through their eyes. There are tons of shots that David Ayer uses that is going to be in the first person perspective. So even during some firefights, for those who are used to video games, if you play first person shooters, you're going to get that actual intense feel like you're playing your own first person shooter. It usually doesn't work. I mean, it failed when they did it in Doom, but in here, it's so realistic and it's so realism, because it's the way the film is built up. You're already starting to feel that intensity for when the firefights are actually happening, and it's so great performances all around that you really like, oh man, I'm seeing it through Brian's eyes, which is played by Gyllenhaal. I'm seeing it through Mike's eyes, which is played by Pena. These guys are fighting, and for some parts of the fight scene, sometimes the camera does get a little too shaky. It does get a little too close. That's my only complaint. And my only complaint with the story sometimes is that there's the plot holes. The plot holes in the film sometimes just makes me go, oh, come on. It's great. It could have been really good. Really great. But unfortunately, the backup on the villains behind it, they just showed you a glimpse of the villain and who he was. But you don't know what his real purpose was. Why is he behind it? What's his backstory? You don't really understand the villain, but you get a glimpse of him, but he is one of those mysterious villains. So when the hit is put upon these guys and they fighting for their lives and stuff, it leaves you like, oh, who's really responsible? Like, how big is this organization? Who's the organization? You don't really know who the organization is. That's probably the biggest disappointment about the film. But like I said, it's a great intensity ride. The music is great. I mean, you have a classical music for your background orchestra score for when it happens. You have your hip hop, of course. The location of the setting is real LA. You got South Central, just like his previous films. Like, I mean, it's produced by the guys from Training Day, so you're already getting that gritty LA life. I mean, you have the real gangs in there. For those, you know, who's familiar with the LA gangs, you got the real gangs in there, and it's a brilliant movie. It's great. Like I said, above all else, the emotional ride and the connection between these two characters and the passion they have for their jobs and the awesome performances from Pena and Gyllenhaal and the great chemistry between them and how they just play off each other. And a little minor spoiler, there is a funny, great scene with Jake Gyllenhaal dancing to hip-hop music. I just laughed. It was so entertaining. Him and Anna Kendrick did a great chemistry together. The acting's solid. The directing is solid. Like I said, with real locations. It's gritty. It's dark. Only problem is there's certain things that I know are not police protocol. I don't know how. It does take a little bit of the realism away because Gyllenhaal just he's like obsessed with this camera. Like, you know how Paranormal Activity, the guy is always obsessed with his camera, brings his camera everywhere? Well, Gyllenhaal is like that because he wants to document his life as a cop, but at the same time, realistically, a cop will not be bringing his camera everywhere, especially during cases and incidents like this. So that does take away a little bit from the realism, but the concept of the film works very well. It's a edge on your seat ride. I say go see it. Final grade, I'm going to give this movie 3.5 stars out of 5 because of the plot holes and sometimes a shaky camera. Otherwise it would have been 4 stars. But it's brilliantly acted by Gyllenhaal and Pena. Great chemistry. It's just a very fun film. Very funny at times as well. And this is a good movie to check out, you guys. So, and the watch comes out September 21st, so make sure you go see it. And this is Justin from otakusgeeks.com, saying later days, so I'll catch you on the next one.